What's going on, guys? Today I'm going to show you how to safely take off and land your drone on a boat. Now, I just got back from Cayman Islands where I was flying my drone on a charter fishing boat, and I learned a lot of things. I made a few mistakes, and I'm making this video in order to help you so when you're out there you don't run into any problems. So today I'm going to give you 10 tips on how to take off and land your drone successfully, and I'm also going to show you exactly how I took off and landed my Mavic 2 drone on a boat so that you're fully confident and there's no problems. Now, although I use the Mavic 2 drone, you could do it with other drones as well, and all these tips and the way I'm going to show you today are applicable for other drones as well. So the first tip I'm going to give you is to make sure you do a compass calibration. That seems kind of obvious, but sometimes people forget it. So make sure you do a compass calibration when you first take out your drone. After you do your compass calibration, the second tip is to make sure you turn off your Bluetooth. This will help avoid interference from the boat that you're on and from other boats and just give you a better overall signal. I always turn off my Bluetooth when I fly. And you could ask the captain to turn off the Wi-Fi or any other frequency that might interfere with the drone signal. My next tip is to ask the captain for another favor, and that's to slow down or even stop the boat. If the captain can stop the boat, that's even better. Now, if you're out there in the ocean, of course the boat is going to be moving, but the more movement, obviously it's going to be more difficult to take off. So if you can stop the boat, that's really going to help out a lot. Now, every boat is a little different, but they all have the same sort of similarities in the fact that you're going to be exposed outside to the sun, and then there's usually a part of the boat where you can go where there's some shade or cover. Okay, so I recommend when you fly, you go in the part where there's shade or cover. If you can't do that, you can put a hood over the screen of the device that you're using while you're flying. So being able to see your screen is a necessity, especially on a boat where you don't want to take any chances. So either take cover or get a little hood for your screen. I'll put a link down below to a hood that I've used before with my drones, and if that works for you, go ahead. Or you can just build your own. You can take a piece of cardboard, put it over your screen, that works as well. Now, when you take off, make sure you go nice and slow, don't rush it, because there are often a lot of poles and things that you could hit. So make sure when you take off that if you're gonna go straight up or in a certain direction, usually it's gonna be straight up, there's no poles right above you or a fishing pole or some type of antenna. When I took off the second time after I changed my battery, I went straight up, everything seemed perfectly fine, and I didn't notice this pole sticking out from the boat, and my drone kind of did a 360 and then kept going up. Luckily, everything was okay, but I should have checked that beforehand. That was a mistake I made. Don't do that. All right, guys, we have a couple more tips, and I'm going to show you exactly how I took off and landed my drone. So my next tip is to get a spotter. What I mean by a spotter is someone else to watch your drone at all times. Usually you're not on the boat by yourself. If you have someone else on the boat, which usually you're on the boat, there's a captain, there's you. If you are the captain, it'd be wise to have another person, and that person can just watch the drone. Make sure they have sunglasses. That way they can see the drone at all times. If you're flying towards the sun, they can see it. And if you're gonna fly underneath the cover, this is especially important because you wanna maintain eyesight with the drone at all times. Now, flying a drone on a boat is so much fun, but you gotta be aware of how much battery life you have. So after you take off, just always make sure you look at how much battery life you have. I would say your first time doing it, if you haven't done it before, if you haven't taken off and landed your drone on a boat, then make sure you have at least 35% battery life when you're coming to land. All right, anything less than that, you don't give yourself enough time or room for error. And oftentimes if the boat's moving or if the waves start moving really high or something unpredictable happens, it's out of your control, and then your battery life is going to go way down. And then things like wind too can also affect your battery life. So when you fly it out, keep in mind the wind could change direction or the boat could change direction. So when you're flying back, it could eat up way more battery life. So always be conservative, especially your first time doing it, and this will ensure that you have a safe landing. Now, some people say you can use a buoy with your drone or a flotation device, and basically what that is, they have them for drones, whereas if you crash in the water, your drone will float. But for me, I would say if you're gonna fly your drone on a boat, you could do that, but I don't really like to have that mind frame. And my mindset is that I'm gonna successfully take off and land my drone. If you have too much apprehension or you're too worried about flying your drone, then maybe you shouldn't do it. But if you follow these steps, you're gonna be able to do it, and it's gonna give you the confidence, and really all that worry is just in your head. Now, my next tip seems kind of obvious, but when you're in a boat, things can happen. People like to party on the boat, but make sure you don't drink alcohol while you're flying your drone. If you're an adult, it's okay to drink alcohol, but make sure you do that after you fly your drone. In fact, I even made a shirt, this shirt right here, that says "Don't drink and drone." Okay, I designed it myself. I have it on my new store that I opened up today. So if you want to check it out, pick it up. This shirt is made in the USA and it helps support my channel. I do appreciate it. Also have a new hat as well that's also on my store. And since I started wearing this t-shirt, I have so many people coming up to me and starting a conversation and asking about myself as a drone pilot and asking about drones and things like that. So if you do buy this t-shirt, you're not only supporting my channel, but you're also gonna have a great conversation starter. I'll put a link in the description below. And now we're gonna get into our last tip. So my last tip actually relates sort of to this, which is keep all distractions away when you're flying a drone. So you're in a boat, you can't really walk away unless you're on a humongous, gigantic boat. And even then, I would be very careful flying on a huge boat. Usually drones aren't allowed. But if you're in a smaller boat like the one I was, you can't really walk anywhere, okay? You're basically there. You gotta keep distractions away. So if the music's real loud, I would ask the captain to lower the music because you need to concentrate. And if something happens, you need to speak with the captain to let them know that you're having a problem. And the other thing is, a lot of times on boats, people are partying or there's a lot of hot girls. So make sure you don't get too distracted while you're flying your drone. You can do that afterwards, but when you're flying, make sure you maintain some level of concentration so you don't have any problems. So I use all those tips that I just gave you, but I'm gonna give you a little more advice about how exactly I did it so it can help you out as well. So when I took off my drone, I did my compass calibration, I put my drone down, and on a boat, there's often a lot of metal. So it may not be on the boat itself, it may be underneath, you may not see it. And that happened to me. So when I took off, the drone kept going like forward or sideways. I thought maybe it was the pitch of the boat or wind or something else. I mean, I knew it kind of wasn't that, but people around me were saying that. And it was throwing me off and I was getting a little bit razzled and I was thinking, all right, what can it be? It's gotta be the metal. Okay, you never wanna take off from a metal surface. That's why you don't wanna put your drone on a car hood or something like this. And the same thing on a boat. So what you're gonna do is, you're actually gonna have to take off in most places, on most boats, just with your hand. Now I know this can be kind of dangerous. I didn't wear a glove. If you want to, you can. Keep in mind there are many ways to take off and land a drone, but this is the way I did it. I made sure when I took off, if you have something like the Phantom, you can grab below, but I didn't have that luxury with the Mavic 2. So what I did was I made sure that I held it down here. To take off, what I did was I just held it down here and I passed the remote to my friend. And now my friend, what he did, he took the control and he just started the propellers. And then I let him know it was okay. We were in communication with each other. And then he took off, all right? As soon as he was at a height above the boat that he wasn't gonna hit anything, then he passed the controller to me and I started flying. Now, make sure when you do take this off, everyone is away from you. Make sure you look up and you can tell him to go straight up or her to go straight up. That way you don't hit anything. The flight path of where your drone is gonna go is really important. And if you have someone who's never flown a drone before, doesn't have a lot of experience, they can press a different direction. So you sort of have to teach the other person before you take off. It doesn't take too much time, isn't overly complicated, but that's what I did. Now maybe you can take off on the boat, but you do run a risk of the drone doing something really funny because of all the metal. So my last tip for taking off is I suggest that you go as far away from the boat as you can. What I mean is you go to the edge of the boat and you almost hold your drone over the water and you make sure the propellers are good and it can just go straight up into the air and not hit anything. If this all sounds really daunting, one thing you could do is with your friend, you could practice doing this on land before you go out onto the boat. I didn't do that. I have a lot of confidence in my flying skills. However, this was the first time I took off on the boat and I kept putting it down on the ground and it kept running into the side of the boat and I almost damaged my drone. And I did damage slightly one of the propellers and I had to change one of the propellers. So don't do that. That's why I recommend holding it in hand. Now to land, it's a little more tricky because you gotta make sure that all the poles, antennas are out of the way. So make sure you take away the fishing poles and anything else that the drone can run into. And what I did is you can go into tripod mode to make the drone go really slow and close to you. And then make sure the obstacle avoiding sensors are either off or you can leave them on. I left them on because sometimes when I fly in sport mode, the drone does some crazy things. So I left it in tripod mode. Now with the Mavic 2, one thing I know is that the obstacle avoiding sensors are in the front and back, top and bottom when flying normal. On the sides, they only work in quick shot and active track mode. And because I wasn't using that, I was just flying normal, I knew I could face it towards me from the side and the sensor wasn't gonna go off. So I had to bring it close to me where I could grab it. So what I did was I flew it close to me and I make sure it was angled like this. So it's coming in at a side. So the drone is actually facing this way. And as the drone is coming towards me like this, I'm holding the controller, I'm getting it close to me, then I let go of the sticks. The drone is just hovering here. And I did the same thing as when I took off. I just grabbed it below, really made sure I kept my hand really low, because if you don't, you could hurt your hand. So you gotta be very careful with this. And then as soon as I grabbed the drone, you could have someone kill the propellers, but what I did was I just flipped the drone upside down. When you flip most DJI drones upside down, the propellers are gonna stop. So with the Mavic 2, that's the case. Not all drones are like that. So that's why I recommend practicing this on land first, just grabbing your drone and then just flipping it over. The drone stops, everything's okay, everyone's happy.
Come on, dude, get it, Brett, get it, Brett, get it, Brett, get it, Brett. Yeah! Oh! All right, we did it.
He was sweating.
Woo!
Was like, hey.
Woo! I wasn't sure it was gonna happen. Nice, nicely played.
All right, guys, that's it. I hope you take off and land your drone successfully on a boat. I hope this was helpful for you. One other thing you can do when on a boat, you can use an ND filter. That really helps with the glare of the ocean and everything else out at sea. During the day, the sun can get really bright, especially out on the ocean. So make sure you use an ND filter. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Share it with someone that might find it helpful. If they own a boat, you can share it with them. And if you haven't done so, pick up a t-shirt. I do appreciate that. And subscribe to my channel because I make tutorials and videos like this about drones on a regular basis. I'm Brett Garamella with BrettGaramella.com. Thanks for watching, guys. Drones for real.